Hello, good morning and welcome to Sports Central, live and exclusive to Spectrum Television, returning a night after we saw the UEFA Champions League, another night of action returning across different centres. The likes of Real Madrid and the rest of other teams were in action. We'll take a look at that this particular morning. And we'll also look at matches that are scheduled for today in the UEFA Champions League. But the WAFL League competition as well for the Golden Eaglet of Nigeria is up and running. Yesterday, they were involved in a clash against Ghana Black Starlet. We'll take a look at that particular match and what went down. We'll also look at the world of tennis this morning, especially as it has to Tokyo Open. Galatasaray was in the final round of that particular tournament. And we'll look at the Tokyo Open. We'll also look at the WTA category where the China Open is also up and running. We'll also take a look at the track and field this particular morning with lots of exciting stories in the world of sports this morning to talk about. I am Mutabe David, and I'm so delighted to return to bring you up to speed with all of these big developments making rounds in the world of sports. But before we talk about all of these extensively, let's first of all bring you up to speed with what's trending and the big stories in the world of sports. Welcome to the show. We'll begin the conversation from the world of tennis, where world number one Carlos Alcaraz beat Taylor Fritz 6-4, 6-4 in that particular final we saw yesterday at the ongoing Tokyo Open. But the man was in fine form and was a delight to watch in that particular game. Carlos Alcaraz won another major title, adding to his cap in the year 2025. Defeating his opponent in straight sets. We're still talking about the Tokyo Open. Alcaraz secured his 8th ATP title of the year in Tokyo, but he then announced that he has withdrawn from the tournament in Shanghai, which starts on Tuesday, writing on Instagram that the best decision is to rest and recover. The spinal twisted his left ankle during his opening round match in Tokyo last Thursday, but he showed no signs of an issue during the final. Broke for 5-4 and served out for the first set against Fritz. Fritz twice required treatment to his left thigh before returning for the second, and Alcaraz seized the opportunity to pile under pressure. The American was broken twice and trailed 4-1, but did offer some resistance in the closing stages, chucking one of those off, but didn't have enough to stop the 6-time Grand Slam champion. Since losing against Yannick Sinner at Wimbledon in July, Alcaraz has won 3 consecutive ATP titles: the Cincinnati Open, the US Open, and Tokyo Open. The Japan Open is Alcaraz's 67th win of the season as he closes in further on Sinner's tally of 73 wins in 2024. To the ATP scene, where Corey Kokogov stepped onto the court Tuesday with more at stake than usual for a 4th round match. A win would send her to the China Open quarterfinals for the 3rd straight year, keep her title defense alive, and allow her to officially clinch a spot in the 2025 WTA Finals, her 4th consecutive qualification for the year-end tournament. And while it wasn't easy, the 2-time Grand Slam champion checked every box, relying for a gritty 4-6, 7-6, 6-2 victory over Belinda Bencic in 2 hours and 29 minutes. It marked Gov's 4th win in 6 meetings with Bencic, 3 of them coming in 2025. Gov will face Eva Lees in the quarterfinals in what will be the first meeting between the two. A win would send Gov to a 3rd consecutive China Open semi-final and 3rd WTA 1000 semi-final of the season. Well, to the world of basketball, Rivers Hoopers rode a wave of pinpoint shooting from deep to outclass Kwara Falcons 81-61 on the 3 of the ongoing 2025 Nigeria Basketball Premier League Phase 2 on Tuesday. Kwara Falcons started hot, drilling back-to-back threes to take an early lead, But once Rivers Hoopers erased a 4-point gap to tie the game at 13-13, there was no going back as the Kingsmen scored 4 more to end the first quarter 17-13. When the defending champions settled into the game, it didn't take much time before the team got the crowd rocking in the quarter. Mustafa Oyebanchi scored 14 of his team-leading 18 points in the second quarter, shooting 4 threes to feed the frenzy, as the Kingsmen took a 14-point lead with a score at 44-30 heading into the half break. The team scored 5 threes in the second quarter and 4 in the fourth for a total 12 overall, the highest total managed by a team in a single game at the ongoing NBPL Atlantic Conference Phase 2. At the end of the third quarter, the host had opened up a 22-point advantage, much to the delight of the energetic crowd, and kept up the tempo to close out the game at 81-61. Amongst 4 Kingsmen who hit double figures, Favour Komene had a memorable night as the youngsters notched 14 points, with each of his 4 threes cheered on by the crowd. Captain Victor Koko scored 13 points and John Idoga added 11 in the match. 6 Africa Under-17 Cup of Nations and FIFA Under-17 World Cup has been dashed. In a fierce West African derby played in Yamoussoukro, the Nigerian youngsters fell 2-0 to arch rivals Ghana, ending their campaign in disappointment. The Black Stars showed intent from the blast of the whistle and were rewarded with 2 first-half tries. Michael Awuli opened the scoring with a fine finish before Yao Gavi doubled the advantage to put Ghana firmly in control. Despite Nigeria's attempt to fight back after the break, the Golden Eaglets failed to breach the Ghanaian defense. Their profligacy in front of goal and lack of composure in the final third proved costly. The defeat means Nigeria, 5-time world champions, at under-17 level will miss out on the next continental showpiece, while Ghana advanced with renewed confidence. African representatives at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup will pick their tickets at the CAF Under-17 African Cup of Nations. Still talking football, English Premier League champions Liverpool suffered their second consecutive defeat of the season as they fell 1-0 to Galatasaray on match day 2 of the UEFA Champions League. Nigerian forward Victor Osimhen, who recently returned from injury, was the hero of the night for the Turkish Super League champions. The Super Eagles striker calmly converted a first-half penalty to hand Galatasaray their first win of the campaign. Liverpool, despite dominating possession and creating several chances, failed to find a way past the resilient Galatasaray defense. For Galatasaray, the victory sparked life into their Champions League hopes, with Osimhen once again showing his quality on Europe's biggest stage. But that's all we have for in Sports Wrap-Up. We'll take a very short breather. When we return, we'll have an extensive conversation on all of these sports stories and much more. Do stay with us.
Get ready for the exciting showdown, the biggest names, the toughest competition, and the most thrilling moments. From the gridiron to hardwood and from the pitch to the track, join us for Sports Central, the most electrifying sports program on television, every weekday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Spectrum Television. Sports Central, your home for sports.
broadening your horizon is what every living being not only genuinely desires, but heartily pursues and intentionally invests in. For in the gathering of men, only those whose minds are in tune with the dynamics of the past, present, and future innovations, inventions, politics, and governance are respected. We are Spectrum Television, and broadening your horizon is our obsession. Rescan your decoder now to connect Spectrum Television on the frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. That is frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. Polarization horizontal, and join our online community at spectrumtvlive.ng. For further inquiries, please call 0704 158 5642 or 0704 541 7707. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
The depth of knowledge, fun, and entertainment you experience.
hardwood, and from the pitch to the track. Join us for Sports Central, the most electrifying sports program on television, every weekday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Spectrum Television. Sports Central, your home for sports.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to another exciting time. We talk about the best of stories in the world of sports. It is Sports Central, and my name is Blyden Okem. Well, the guys, you can see that seated at the table of greatness, ready for this one, especially when you're looking at the Champions League night and the postulation that comes with it. Yesterday, we saw Victor Osimhen turn up to the party when it matters most, bagging the Man of the Match award. 6 times Liverpool have gone to Turkey, and 5 times have fought at the line, only being able to win once, and that was in the Europa Cup against Besiktas. Always a difficult ground for Liverpool when they go to Turkey, and the night it was similar story. Well, a couple of African players were doing quite well. We're talking about Nicholas Jackson, the Senegalese international, scoring a Champions League goal on the night and an assist. We're also talking about Brahim Diaz hitting the number, scoring for Real Madrid, as Real Madrid had big numbers against our opponents. And who else missing in that order now? Aubameyang, yeah, becoming the second oldest African at the age of 36 plus. Second oldest to Didier Drogba, who scored a Champions League goal at the age of 36 and 8 months. Aubameyang hitting the number for Olympique Marseille as they crush Ajax Football Club. Well, we'll get a look at other sporting activities too. The world of tennis, cricket as the yellow green. The mother of all games would be football stories. We'll talk about the Nigerian Premier Football League and the like. Well, first, I talk to the guys. Good morning to David. Happy Independence Day for Nigeria, 1st October. So good to have you be part of the show.
Well, an excellent day to return. It's unfortunate I'm not on green white screen, but I think I have the white signal, a color, also being quite symbolic. Returning on the day where Nigeria is celebrating Independence Day. One would also look back and, of course, want to reflect on how we've actually fared in terms of sports development. Are we going forward? Are we coming backward? Are we actually developing grassroots sports?
Talk about it.
All of that. So I think it's a talking point. But I think I'm delighted the day after the Champions League, happened last night. And I don't know why Liverpool fans are quite surprised, because they lost yesterday. And Victor Osimhen also making history.
Well, funny tonight, good morning. I can see you have some green on by the side, but all the same, happy new month for you.
Well, I would just try to go from where UT talked about Nigeria, where we are at the moment. I think when I started growing up watching age grade football, we're doing quite well. But now, just brings my mind back to the conversation about the NFF board. People asking them to resign. We're doing so poorly. You're the 17th side crashed out yesterday of the WAFL B, not playing at the AFCON, not playing at the World Cup. Dark times for the Nigerian Football Federation.
Well, a dark time for Nigerian Football Federation just in recent times, because about a month plus 2 months, we're all excited about the performance of the girls of the WAFCON, but the men's have really disappointed us, and it would be something to look up to. And maybe Nigeria needs a woman president for things to really work out, because looking at the Falcons and the D-Tigers, how they've performed in the sporting angles, the girls are doing fine, but the men, and they're not doing fine. Maybe from political aspect of it, a woman gets to be the president of Nigeria. might just see a change that gets to happen. Shall we? Let's start from the world of tennis before we get to talk about the world of cricket, because it will be a main conversation on the stay. And we're starting with a women's game in the China Open. It would be Coco Gauff defeating Belinda Bencic, a former Olympic champion, to reach the Beijing quarterfinals and grabbing tickets to WTA finals. Similarly, in the China Open, we're talking about Anisimova overturning slow start and booking quarterfinals meeting with Paulini, and Paulini tops Buskova in Beijing into the fourth WTA 1000 quarters of 2025. Well, to start with you, well, I don't know if you're the woman's man. I'm funny tonight, it's a woman's man, but I want you to talk about women anyway. Yeah. Now let's talk about a women's game now. You've seen the likes of Coco Gauff moving forward, and Anisimova also qualifying, but booking a spot to face Paulini, a big game in the China Open.
Well, I think for Gauff, it's been more like a familiar terrain for Coco Gauff. Look at the last, let's say the last two competitions, in China, she's also, performed quite good, always making her way through to the semi-finals. So it looks like more like a familiar terrain for her at the moment. And also talking about the very fact that even at the time when we're talking about some excellent run of form for, Coco Gauff, this particular year hasn't really been able to, amass more titles as expected. But I think she's done enough, always reaching the semi-finals, quarterfinals of competition. And that was seen right here as well at the China Open, also making way through to another, of course, very critical moment. I think it's more like a progress for her at the moment, and I just feel that things could actually get better for her, because the more you face top level, opponents, the more you also, increase in terms of confidence and momentum. Belinda Bencic is a top, level opponent at this particular China Open. So I think for Gauff, you could just get better from here.
Bencic has really slowed down recent times.
She slowed down, because we're talking about a lady who
when you talk about history,
once in the top 3, but now below the top 50 of the WTA rankings. But somehow, being able to participate in the last two in the WTA competition also feels that she's actually, of course, a lady who's also trying to, get back her form, back on track. So I think for Belinda Bencic, still a long way off, but possible to get back that form.
Well, possible to get back her form is that conversation from Toba Diver to move straight and talk about the games still within the Asian swing on Tokyo 2025 tournament. It will be Yannick Sinner in China sinking a 10 and having that win the third title of the season in Beijing for him. And similarly, Carlos Alcaraz wins in Tokyo, but pulls out of Shanghai. Well, funny tonight, let's talk about the guys and what they've been able to achieve now. Yannick Sinner winning on the other hand, and we're talking about Carlos Alcaraz beating Taylor Fritz 200 battle between a number 1 and number 2 seeded player at this competition, the Japan Open in Tokyo. 6-4, a 6-4 victory for Carlos Alcaraz.
Well, I think the teams of these two players pick different competitions for them on purpose, because I
don't want to clash again.
Exactly. Two top level opponents, both 500 level competitions. It would have been better to see both of them competing against each other, but decided to take a break. I remember the last.
It's better we see it in the Grand Slam and not at tall level.
Definitely. But I think it would have been more people would have like to see Carlos Alcaraz against Yannick Sinner. But at the end of it, both of them showed that they are the best tennis players on the planet currently, winning both of those competitions at the same time. Carlos Alcaraz winning in Tokyo, and the man Yannick Sinner winning in Beijing against Leonard Chen. I'm not against a very top opponent when you talk about the likes of Yannick Sinner, because he had to face lesser opponents compared to what Carlos Alcaraz faced. We had more top-level opponents in Tokyo Open than the Beijing Open. So maybe some would say easier route for Yannick Sinner, but still at least it gives him a breath of fresh air. Just recently removed from the world #1 spot, so he needs some sort of motivation and momentum to get back to that level.
Well, call it motivation or call it momentum, whatsoever you want to call it. It's always going to be the top superstars hitting the numbers. Looking forward to the year-end competition will happen, and especially the Shanghai Open, the biggest of the masters in the Asian swing. It would be one to really look forward to.
Carlos Alcaraz is out of that one now.
Carlos Alcaraz out of it now. Yannick Sinner would want to really dominate and add up to the ranking points, and maybe by the year-end we don't know what gets to happen. A ranking point still quite some distance, but if you win a 1,000 Masters event when Carlos Alcaraz is in there, and that cuts the deficit in the ranking point. And quickly, a sad one, we'll have a mix of a conversation on this one, the world of cricket that has to do with Nigeria's Yellow Green crashing out of the T20 World Cup after losing to Kenya in the qualifiers. We'll also x-ray the Independence Day, where we are, not just in other sports, but also in the world of cricket. Well, it would be me and the guys alone. Akanimoko, for a sports journalist when it has to do with cricket, joins the conversation this morning. And we'll be giving lots of perspective to it and what happens because Nigeria gets to play Botswana next. Akanimoko, I hope you're there. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Studio. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria.
Fantastic. Quite happy. I wish that it wasn't the yellow greens. It was just the green. Maybe it could have gotten a lot better in terms of result. But let's move straight and talk about a game in the Harare. Then, what's the first game for a Nigeria cricket team? Qualifiers for the T20 ICC World Cup, and the first conversation in Zimbabwe, Harare. Was that got a victory in the first game against Malawi. Second game, the loss to Namibia, struggling a bit against East African side. And Mark Ofre had joined the show previously and predicted the boys could do well. We're hoping it gets to happen, but it never happened at Kanemo. They lost by 7 wickets to Kenya, at the end of it dropping in terms of rankings to number 3 and no more in contention to qualify for the World Cup. Disappointing for you in that regard?
Okay, I would say disappointing, but I cannot take away the fact that Nigeria has made their mark as far as cricket is concerned in Africa, especially West Africa. So getting the World Cup ticket was for the South and Eastern African, like for them, they were thinking Nigeria is trying to get crashed into their culture. Notwithstanding, the boys gave a good account of themselves by trying to this level. Slightly, they would have taken the win from Kenya, but just like I predicted, that Sylvester and his team should look on to the guy called Raki Patel, because he's a patent centurion when it comes to international engagement like this for Kenya. Despite losing to Malawi, they stood their ground to withstand Nigeria, and they make a stroll in the park against Nigeria and took the win. Very sad indeed. But now all we have to do is to play for ranking in the whole tournament.
Nigeria playing for ranking in the tournament now, because currently they're placed third in that position, out of the World Cup, can qualify for the World Cup. Up next would be against Botswana. The game takes place on the 2nd of October, and it would be one if they get to beat Botswana, maybe adds to the celebration of Nigeria's independence. Well, we'll get to talk about if Nigeria can beat Botswana, because we saw the likes of Suleiman Ronsewa and Captain Sylvester Okpe playing 27 and 26 runs respectively, and Nigeria, who batted first in this particular one against Kenya, scored 147 runs after 20 overs and the 7 wickets in the first inning. While Kenya, on the other hand, had 148 runs for a loss of 3 wickets at 13.4 overs, getting the better of Nigeria in that regard. And now I want to ask you, Akanemo Akufre, when you look at the cricket world, we've talked about the progress Nigeria's done in the cricket world, and now let's mark the independence and the world of cricket. Where are we in terms of when Nigeria started got independence? Not many people really talked about cricket, but the progress seemed to have been massive. If cast your mind a decade ago, if you talk about Nigeria in the world of cricket, many will say no, but consistency has been a thing, and in recent times have really improved. What is your standing in terms of Nigeria's growth in the world of cricket as we mark independence, and where do you think we're heading to?
Okay, thank you, Blyden. 65 years of independence and almost a century old of cricket in the country. We did not make a lot of progress after a while, after the initial stage of development of cricket in the country. It was known to be popular in Calabar, Cross River State, then in Lagos as well. At a point, it was focused on Lagos, and a couple of decades ago, under Professor Ukwenya, we saw a turnaround when Nigeria was growing in the ranking as associate member in Africa. The advent of Uji Akpata and the board took us to the limelight, where we are enjoying, especially in the female cricket and also the men's cricket, as far as West Africa is concerned, or let me say Sub-Saharan Africa is concerned. And now we are taking our own game into Central East Africa, where we have a little bit of advantage, and then moving deeper down to southern part of Africa, where the culture of cricket is normalized there. I want to give it to Cricket Federation Nigeria. They have tried. In such a competition, you will see other countries, their squad is dominated by Asians or the European descendants, like we have in Namibia and the rest of them. So it is time for us to really sit down and say this is going to be our culture, and then develop our kids, our players in the way of cricket. Cricket is a patience game. Cricket is a gentleman's game. Cricket is not a 90-minute game. You need to take a whole day to prosecute one match, especially when it is ODI. So you'll find out that sport organizers here would always want to lump up cricket activity for 2 days, a tournament that will involve about 10 competitors. No, you don't need to do that. If you have up to 10 competitors in cricket, that means the tournament must be prosecuted within 2 weeks. So this is what we need to do to make sure that our cricket improves to the standard of what we have in southern part of Africa and East Africa.
Okay, I kind of more good perspective there. Lastly, because we get to talk about football stories around the world soon. And now let's go to the next game for Team Nigeria, talking about the Yellow Greens against Botswana. You think they can get the better of Botswana tomorrow, and what this means for them in terms of maybe performance, and put this side by side, what we need to do as a nation also to reach the stage where we can compete favorably with Southern African countries or maybe surpass them?
For Botswana, I think it's going to be a big one for us because this team was so determined and focused. Beating Malawi showed that they meant business. They lost it narrowly technically to Namibia, and Kenya own was a big flop because I was expecting a win, even when the boys played up to 140 something scores on the runs. So for Botswana, I believe that they can definitely beat Botswana to maintain their ranking as far as the 8 countries taking part in the competition is concerned.
For a good perspective, believing Nigeria can get a better Botswana moving forward. Well, I think the guys will share in the same sentiment. It's Independence Day, and we say Happy Independence Day. I say Happy Independence Day to you, Akanamo Kofre. Thank you for being Thank you for being a part of the show today, and thank you for joining.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure having you.
All right. A good pleasure to be diving for the team about Nigeria's growth. And let's conclude the first phase of a conversation where we talk about other sports. Looking at the growth of Nigerian sports generally, maybe you put side by side with football alongside, because we're transcending into football conversation. What has it been for you looking at independence and where we are? Yeah, I know a pocket of complaint when it has to do recent fallout in terms of under 17 qualifiers that we talk about. We get to talk about details of it, but what has it been for you so far?
Most times when I want to, of course, critically look at Nigeria's growth, I look at it in the last, let's say 1 year, because last year we also talked about the same story. So how have we fared from the last, Independence Day celebration up until now? That's what I'm looking at the moment. And I think we haven't done enough in terms of, trying to, grow a sports. Basically, when we talk about sports in general, we're looking at all the facets. Maybe we could also exclude, cricket, because they're actually one of the fastest growing, sports, particularly in the shores of our country, which have also, witnessed development. But away from that now, we critically look at other sports and what has happened from last year up until now.
Which of them in particular?
The track and field, athletics. Yeah. I mean, you look at the world of football.
Boxing.
You look at the world of boxing as well.
Weightlifting.
You look at basketball.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you look at maybe volleyball as well. I mean, all those sports.
We've not even heard much about rugby. Since that fight with our federation, and afterward the rebuild that came up.
We haven't really heard about it so recently. So I look at, of course, all of those sports. I think we're not doing enough investing in major sports in the country. Look at the ongoing Nigerian basketball league. We've been talking about Rivers Hoopers, and it might just be the same case. The same, of course, face, representing Nigeria on the continent. So I think much still has to be done. We're drastically declining because most of those sports do not have workable leagues. Like the basketball doesn't have workable league, or just towing through major tournament. So I think Nigeria, for me, though they've done well in some sports, But I think lots have to be done in other major sports.
Well, immediately Timothy David said, those have done well in some sport. And funny thing, I looked at him. It seemed like he's disagreed with him. Funny thing, I was even been for, you know. And not the independence there where we have to go back, do a post-mortem of some sort and see where we faltered our lines, where we've done quite well and see how we balance the shit. What has it been for you and where do we need to improve?
Well, I think the score sheet for the Sports Commission is going to be very poor. If I'm to, grant the Sport Commission, it's going to be very poor because I think, in the last 20 years, we've seen Nigeria play at the Olympics. We had a basketball team play at the Olympics, but you go back in the past 10 years, we've not seen that anymore. So it means there's been a steady decline in that particular sport, about basketball. I've also seen Nigeria have a rowing representative at the Olympics. I don't know if that was just for show, but since then, we've not really had a rowing. It's not just about the Olympics. When it's time for the Olympics, we now have a competitor coming back to row. What happens at the World Championships? What happened as all those other competitions, even in Africa, the All-African Games, we didn't have a representative in rowing. So it almost looks as if most times we just bring back, because that was, a competitor who came back from, abroad to compete for Nigeria. So I think it's just a very poor score sheet for the Nigerian Sports Commission.
Quite poor. To be diving for the 10 and not giving much when it has to percentage gains of promotion in terms of the organizers of different sports in Nigeria and what they've been able to achieve. Maybe the next 1 year after we mark the last independence is that concern for everybody, and we're sharing that sentiment and we're asking for better times ahead in football and other sports in that regard. And now we'll go on a quick break, and when we're back, we'll give you another bad news regarding the Golden Eagles not being able to qualify for the World Cup back-to-back times, and we'll talk about the Champions League, the big game taking place today, Barcelona against Paris Saint-Germain. Don't go anywhere. It would be a part of the conversation. Central. And my name is Vladimir Kumutubadevin Folitina, still with me for company, going nowhere. And now we talk about the best of stories in the world of football. And football, as usual, football, here we go. Well, we begin from the home scene, and it would be about a WAFU B competition under 17 level. Well, it was the semi-finals of it in Abidjan, and Nigeria's Golden Eagles were beaten by a Black Starlet of Ghana 2-0, despite the fact that during the group stages of the tournament, Nigeria were playing with flying colors, and the Black Stars with Black Starlets of Ghana was struggling. And now the consequences, the Black Starlets of Ghana have qualified for the Under-17 AFCON, which preludes a qualification towards the Under-17 World Cup. And back-to-back years, David, I'll start with you on this one. Nigeria has not qualified for the World Cup. When you look at the World Cup, the best of superstars from Nigeria all came from the Under-17. In recent years, Kelechi Iheanacho, Victor Osimhen, name them, the rest of them now. But we're going through that process since 2015. We've really not had iconic superstars from the Under-17 level. What could be wrong? Big problem.
I think it's quite worrisome that we're talking about the flying, Golden Eagles rather, who are 5-time, World Cup champions.
Yeah, the best team in the world. Yeah.
Not qualifying for the World Cup for the second consecutive time is a big, very big embarrassment. And one would ask, what has actually been the problem? I think it's very simple. First of all, we start with the NFF. Before now, we used to have a thorough scouting across the country. Whenever we talk about, of course, a major tournament, especially at the grassroots level, we have the scouts, go across different states, look at, of course, some of these, football teams and scout best players, to play at the national team.
You think
now,
they're not scouting?
They're not doing enough now. It's just basically about, going to Lagos, going to Abuja, and match some of these young Before now, we used to have acquirable names. I mean, the Northeast, the West, the Northwest. I mean, names scattered across almost different perspectives.
All around, look around for players. So now they go to a few academies
just
around.
Just few academies that are maybe notable.
Say,
just
on, bring your player, bring your player.
That's what they're doing at the moment. Secondly, as you blame the NFF for this, because, I mean, there are times where you need to make necessary changes to, a particular setup. We saw Manu Garba return back. How many years have Manu Garba managed the Under-17? Yeah. Why is he returning? We have other energetic and, of course, talented coaches across the country. But we still go back to Manu Garba because he will settle for less. And that's why we're here.
Well, also I like to bring this. Yesterday, after this particular news broke, I saw a particular story on Twitter. That's why I wanted to bring it here. A particular footballer was trying to say that he's in an academy, and then there was a time a scout came. They didn't know who brought the scout, but they realized at the end of it was a rich man who brought the scout because his son plays in the academy. And during that match, they were all told pass the ball to that man's son. So every clip that was garnered in that particular pitch showed that man's son. So I think that's what's happening in Nigeria at the moment. Because when it's time for picking players, you tend to only pander to people who have the money to pay. We've listened to Victor Osimhen's story quite a number of times, also talking about almost the same thing. So I feel it's always going to be
just that
Emmanuel
Amunike had to believe in the man at some point and picked him. And when you do things right in Nigeria, because there's abundance of talent, you get it right, especially in a country of over 230 million people. What do you expect? And that's our conversation. We'll move ahead and talk about the Nigerian Premier Football League derby taking place today. Would be a game between Rivers United, a rescheduled match against Niger Tornadoes. Well, possibilities and postulation has been that position on the table, and we're talking about Niger Tornadoes being able to gather 9 points from 5 matches, and Rivers United recording 8 points from 4 matches. A big game to talk about in Fonitina now. We've seen Rivers United exploit the preliminary stages of the CAF Champions League, but now is the Nigerian Premier Football League.
Well, I think CAF competitions have always been a very, very big distraction for teams, especially big teams. We saw with the Yemba Football Club last season, but this season has been quite better for them. I just fear it shouldn't be the same case for Rivers United, because they are a very good side, and a side I really enjoy watching so much. And Finidi George, I think he's a manager who has the technical know-how, especially when it comes to the Nigerian league. So I'm expecting him to go out, get maybe one win, because one goal win, because Finidi George seems to be a very defensive-minded coach. So I see him getting the better of Niger Tornadoes. Maybe a 1-0 victory.
And maybe a 1-0 victory at the end of it is that conversation. And quickly, let's go to Europe. Yesterday we saw the games take place in European football, the Champions League. We'll talk about all the details that comes with it. But first, let's start with the one that interests many Nigerians. Victor Osimhen bagging the Man of the Match award. Just recently, Galatasaray had to rally him to return from that injury. They were worried about his fitness. He scored the lone goal from penalty spot, substituting at 70-something minute in this one. But the best player it was for them on the match, and they're getting that victory. We've seen the story of Liverpool going to Turkey. 6 times they've gone to Turkey. They've been able to win only once, and that was in the Europa League against Besiktas, not Besiktas, Trabzonspor it is. And the struggle against Besiktas, the struggle the most against Galatasaray. It was the same hostile night for them at Turkey. Well, Arne Slot has come up. Many people talk about the likes of Florian Wirtz in this one not playing so well.
Absolutely poor. I think the poorest rating we had in that game was Florian Wirtz. Look at passes completed 0/0. Maybe, of course, he recovered some balls. Outside that, other aspects of his game was totally bad. I look at this Liverpool side. I think aside the history at in Turkey, one would also look at the very fact that they were the second best team in that game. Dominic Szoboszlai played as a right back in that game. And over time, we've talked about the defensive crisis, surrounding Liverpool at the moment. And I think at the moment, other slots will actually be looking for solutions. And now that the transfer window has been slam shut, one injury, and we'll see the Liverpool, of course, being found wanting, and that's what happened yesterday. Now,
we're talking about Alisson also
injured, and they are facing Chelsea in the Premier League next.
And
might just be another very difficult.
Not the red card specialist you're talking about. Chelsea Football Club.
Let's
talk about Chelsea Football Club. Back-to-back games, bagging. How many games now? 3 in a stretch. Bagging red cards. Joao Pedro, end of it. But a return of Jose Moreno, a slight victory for Chelsea. A cagey game. Chelsea really did struggle. Benfica in this one scored an own goal. Jose Moreno antics back again with Benfica. But at the end of it, a victory for Chelsea.
Really points to the fact that Benfica are quite a good side when it comes to European competition, especially in the last 2 Champions League campaigns. They've been very good, fairly good. When you look at the quality of players, they were knocked out by Barcelona in the last one. Barcelona went on to the semi-final. So probably, if it wasn't Barcelona, I probably would have seen Benfica.
Well, no need talking about it. Probably, I can tell what happens.
Well, I think Chelsea, they performed well against a fairly good opposition, I would say. And also, when you have Jose Mourinho, one thing that surprised me was that Jose Mourinho's side were even having bulk of the short and tackle as compared to Chelsea. They scored against the run of play. That was very surprising for me, but at the end of it, 3 points is 3 points.
Well,
to go for
at
Chelsea.
the end of it, 3 points is 3 points. We'll see how we get to talk about today's game. Time is fast spent. Maybe we get just 2 minutes added to it, and we see what the numbers would be. Well, Simeone sits out as Atletico Madrid thrash Eintracht Frankfurt in this. We're talking about who now? Julian Alvarez being that phenomenal for them, scoring a penalty, and that's one. Anton Griezmann, 200 goals for Atletico Madrid. Came to join the club as a winger, became a supporting striker, and adding up the number. Kylian Mbappe bagging a hat-trick as Real Madrid trash Khalid Almaty. The Moroccan international Brahim Diaz also scoring from an African point of view. Hurricane staying hot with a brace for Bayern as they got better of Paphos, but the interesting feature was Nicholas Jackson being on the scorer's sheet and having an assist in it. Lautaro Martinez double helping Inter Milan cruise past Slavia Praga. Well, in today's game, I think the highlight of it would be Arsenal against Olympiacos, Barcelona against Paris Saint-Germain, and Monaco against Manchester City. Before we close, let's look at Barcelona. Paris Saint-Germain is the big one to talk about. Remember, during the last Champions League, everyone talked about it and said it was a game they were looking forward to, and it never happened. And I put that side by side with the fact that the Ballon d'Or Awards just took place. Lamine Yamal losing. Lamine Yamal will be featuring in this one, while Ousmane Dembele would be missing. Couple of injuries for both sides, and Lamine Yamal at the age of 19, hoping to become the youngest player with more caps, and probably in terms of goal, maybe he can catch up the likes of Kylian Mbappe that scored about 18 thereabout at the age of 19. But in terms of caps, he's adding up the number and ready for this one. What are we looking at in this particular game, Utube?
Well, did I hear you say Ousmane Dembele will be missing this game?
Yeah, so I have.
Well, that's of course a very big blow for Paris Saint-Germain at the moment. I think both sides have, of course, injury concerns. But for Barcelona, their top two, of course, choice goalkeeper will not be part of it. We'll talk about the likes of Garcia and the first choice, as a matter of fact. So that's something very worrisome for them at the moment. Rafinha is also out of this game, according to report. Lamine Yamal is fit, so it makes it evenly balanced now for both teams. But I think Barca should be worrisome about the very fact that, I mean, over time we've seen Paris Saint-Germain play without the service of Ousmane Dembele, and they have been able to win games.
And Kvaratskhelia too could miss it.
Yeah,
and that's big numbers for
Kvaratskhelia,
that's our job. Absolutely.
So I think it's quite an unbalanced game. Very, very unbalanced.
Well, Fantina, what are we looking at? Because when we talk about this one, based on the stats that are available, it seems to be in favor of Barcelona. Rafinha, key percent in this one. Joan Garcia not being available. Fermin Lopez also hip injury in that. Gavi has been a long time, and Max Stegen being a long time. What are we expecting?
Well, I think this game came at a very wrong time for Paris Saint-Germain because I'm not going to lie, this is not the game we wanted to see because lots of players injured for Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah, they want to see the stack squad.
Exactly, I wanted to see a like-for-like
battle. They won't have
so,
excuses.
Exactly, so I think it's not going to be the game many expected.
Well, and the guys that say it's not going to be the games many expected couldn't go make a rundown of all the games that are taking place today. When we return, we'll talk about all the results and possibilities that comes even further. But here we draw the curtain in today's edition of Sports Central. Thank you for being a part of it. My name is Blado Kim. Thank you guys to Devin Fonitina for joining it and giving your thoughts across. Well, we bounce. Thank you to everyone who's made it possible, and to you who watch from home. Thank you, and we say bye-bye.